Good afternoon, YouTube. Back again. Give me a bit, give me a bit, give me a bit, give me a bit. Oh, don't we hate when it does this? Um, Good morning or good afternoon, sorry. Good afternoon. Um, so the message of the day. What do I have to say today to the people? Sometimes I have why I can never seem to go in chronological order is sometimes I have something that I figure is a good idea to talk about, and then something else completely comes up. Last night was a full moon. I forgot to do a final reminder on my on in my community section. Hoping people prayed, hoping on full moons I tend to, not always, but sometimes I tend to stay up a little bit later. I tend to be very intentional about the way that I pray, etc. The full moon is a time to be particularly careful with prayers and stuff like that, because that is when people want to do a lot of dark work. People love a full moon, you know, to set negative intentions. So it's a good time to put some extra prayer and stay extra close to, your spiritual team at that time. For me, there are different rules, I guess, and I just heard somebody say this. And like, people take spirituality and they really want to make it. And I guess there's like societies, and there's like people who, we only do things this way, we only do things that way, etc., etc. And it's like, I think when you're close to your spirit team, they'll tell you what they want, they'll tell you how they want things done. And I really feel like at the end of the day, it comes down to relationships. I think the spiritual world and the physical world are similar in that sense. There are people who are there are people who are the kind of people who, they go through life and all they really care about is, how can I make money? How can I acquire the things that I want? And they do so even at the detriment of relationships, even if they have to make enemies, even if, they're leaving place to place or person to person, leaving people, leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. And then there are other people who really believe in relationships. They believe in cultivating good relationships, making sure, and that's how I grew up. We believe in making sure that, when you leave a place, you don't leave a stain or a bad taste in people's mouth. Now, that does not always mean that it is possible for that to happen. There are people who take one look at you and their spirit doesn't like you. And no matter what you do, it's gonna be an issue. But for me, I just feel like spiritually, as long as I'm not leaving any negative karma, I am not guilty of anything, then I can move on with a clear conscience. And I don't need to worry about, whatever happens behind my back, because I know it'll be cleared up. I know it won't hit me because I'm not in the wrong. So that's how I see that. I guess that's maybe the theme of what I want to talk about today. So I don't know. I always have like the heaviest point first. But anyway, the first thing I want to discuss is for people starting their spiritual journeys right now. If this is how I see it. Once it depends on how you are. I'm no spiritual advisor, please, as far as like, I'm just newly initiated. I can only speak to, when I'm speaking, I'm not speaking to people who are seasoned, people who are already doing something, people who already think that this is the way they should be doing things. Do your thing, knock yourself out. Don't let me interrupt. I'm talking to people who have never had a spiritual awakening, have never had, you know, personally thought of, reaching out to spirit or starting a spiritual journey, but are in the middle, obviously, of gang stalking or are in situations that they don't know how to get out of. These are the people that I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to predominantly drug mules or victims of gang stalking who do not have a spiritual practice or belief. So I want to put that out there in case there's some losing genius who's in the middle of 1,000 backfires who feels that they want to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. All right? Good. So, if you are new to this journey and you don't know where to start, these are the considerations that I would take before taking this step. If you are a person who is fickle or has issues with discipline or commitment, think twice before you start a spiritual journey. A spiritual journey requires, like I always say, patience and discipline. Discipline means that we don't skip things that we know we have to do. We don't skip things we know we have to do. Meaning, you do not just let your altars go untended. You don't just, now, things will occur, and I could speak for myself. Things will occur. So let's say you do something every day at 5, and one day you're doing it at 9. There's some days where it's like, I just got to get it done. I'll do it at 11. Or some days it's like, there's still a lot on the altar, but I'll do something the next morning, let's say. But the fact is, you cannot neglect it. The reason you keep up that routine is you want to stay close. And every time you either skip something or you skip a prayer or you forget something, you forget a meditation, it goes one night, then another night, then another night, and you start thinking it's a lackadaisical thing, like you don't have to do it. When you start on this journey, it is for life. I thought I was the only person who, well, I didn't think I was the only person, but so much things that I have been listening to, been reading up on, and it's like that's one consistent thing, is that at least everybody acknowledges that, everybody agrees on that. It is for life. When I started meditating and I was self-directed, I don't know why I picked it up. It wasn't like I went through any sort of catastrophe, wasn't any breakup, it wasn't any, there was nothing. I was great, life was great, money was great, everything was great, and I picked it up. And from the time I picked it up, I was very strict about it, meaning that it had to be done. It couldn't be skipped. If I were too tired and I fell asleep without doing the meditation, I would have to pray and ask to be woken up to do the meditation. And believe me, they will wake you up to do the meditation. Even if they let somebody else wake you up, the phone, whatever, you will be woken up and you got to catch up on that meditation. Now, I don't even let it get that bad. Like, I do that meditation, do or die. So that goes with everything else that you're doing spiritually, your spiritual hygiene. You need to follow a ritual. You will see people who go to church, they go to church every Sunday. And when they get serious, they go in the weekday as well. When I first started, I've always prayed, but when I first started like really praying, really understanding what prayer was, I was addicted to praying. Like, I loved it. Like, it was, I couldn't wait to pray again. And that keeps you so close to your spirit team, to your spirit guides, whatever it is that you call God. To me, in spirituality, that is what is more important. And I think the other ritualistic stuff that you do, I think, yes, it does matter, but going with that kind of heart, I think, is more important. Like, there are people who I've seen their altars and the altar is extremely fancy and it's enviable. It's a beautiful altar. They have everything on there. However, when I look at their lifestyle and I look at them as a person, I just don't really, I think it's the heart. I think it's the heart. I think if I were on the other side and someone came always with a beautiful heart and a beautiful spirit, and they were always wanting to spend time with me, and they were always, they don't even come asking for things half the time. They come and they just want to let me know that they're always going to be there. That, these are the kind of things, to me, I think that, they build relationships. Now, a part of building a relationship is keeping your word, being respectful, being honest. I was saying yesterday, spirits are very black and white. And there's this thing that Christians say, that God keeps his word. And, you know, all the spirits, not all the spirits, some spirits, I feel like they come with tricky energy, but for the most part, spirit, they keep their word. They can't tell you when, they can't tell you how, but they keep their word. So this is kind of like an analogy that I'll use. If you're working with your ancestors, spirits that you work with, deities, whatever it is, and it's kind of like being, this is how I look at it. It's like being someone's wife, and all you want is a house, like an actual house. You don't want to be in a small apartment in the city anymore, let's say. And your husband says, like, I'll get you the house. And 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, there's no sign of a house. And now your friends are, getting brand new condos with their boyfriends or their husbands, and they're doing all this fancy stuff and whatever. For you, as a loyal wife, you wait for how long it takes. It may take 5 years for you to get your house. But what usually happens in that situation is because what you could have gotten in a year or two is not what you would have gotten if you waited the 5 years out. So now, when he drives you up to the house, it's like this massive house on the side of a hill. It's huge. There's a pool in the back, and you're thinking to yourself, like, this is way more than I could have anticipated. I feel like when you work with spirits and you work from purity of heart, you are blessed way more than you anticipated. They go crazy for you. There are people, spirit, no, they work on energy. So it's like you coming, and it's like some people, a lot of spiritualists, they just work on a transactional basis. And it's like you'll still get what you were asked, like what you asked for, but they're not putting extra gravy on the top. They're not bulking it up. It's not over the top. It's not a relationship built on love. And especially if it's a dark entity, like, please do not go and try to be in love with dark entities. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody new here is going to be interested in hopping into working with dark entities, but I say all that to say, when you start praying for protection, for guidance, and you start reaching out, you are not going to want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to turn your back after the protection has been received and after they've lifted you out of a bad situation. That is not how it works. That will cause more problems in your life than you even started with. So, yes, you are in a horrible situation, and yes, you need help, and yes, you want to come out. But you have to realize that when you light the altar, logically, forget traditions, forget rituals, forget what anybody says. When is a logical time to stop lighting the altar in your mind? What day can you say, okay, well, you know what? It's been 3 years since you saved me, and I think it's enough. What day would that be logical to do? This is a relationship. It's a beautiful relationship. You're learning each other. Well, you're learning them. They know you. And they've waited for you probably to call out, to come this far. This is a lifelong journey, and I think that kind of commitment makes people nervous. But if you're in these kind of societies and organizations, those are also lifelong journeys as well, whether they tell you or not. Maybe you'll find out that it's lifelong when it's time for you to try to leave. Then you might think to yourself, I can't leave. They won't let me leave. They're following me. They've binded me spiritually, and I didn't know. So you are already corded to your ancestors anyway. And I always say start with your ancestors. Start with passed over loved ones to make connections. They know the appropriate connections. I would not just start reaching out to entities just because they come to you and just because somebody wrote about it somewhere or you listen to a video. Please start with ancestors and let them make connections for you. That's how I started as well. People that you trust. Now, let me explain a little of how that goes. So you start your relationship with an ancestor and they make an introduction. And the introduction that they make is respectful of when you're ready to extend yourself. They are respectful. It is like any relationship. It's like, think of well, I don't know about that culture, so I'm not going to say like an arranged marriage, but it's kind of like the spirit will wait for you to feel comfortable. It'll show itself. It'll be polite. It'll sit back and it'll wait, and you build your own relationship independent. And your ancestors remain there as like a liaison, as a guide, because it makes you feel comfortable that they're comfortable. It's like, if I were to bring, let's say, one of my kids somewhere and I say, we can trust this person, they're probably going to trust that person because I trust that person and they trust me. So it is an extension. So this is how it works. And you're also constantly looking to your ancestors on how are they behaving? Because if they don't want you there, you're not going to be there. Trust me, they're going to block it. They're going to consistently block it. And I always say, don't worry. The tarot community right now is being attacked as if tarot readers are the be all and end all of messages, and they're not. Listen, when your ancestors don't want you to make a message, they will do all kinds of things to not make you they will do everything. You will not do it. It is not possible for you to fail. They cannot trust you to do this on your own. Not that they don't trust you or your intentions or your heart, but they make things, even if they have to break your heart, they will break your heart in order to stop something. If they have to cause you to be in an accident, whatever they have to do to get you there, it's gonna happen. So you do not need to worry about, well, oh my God, if I can't do this or if I can't do that. They will block certain gifts so that you don't get false messages. They are there for your protection. Your only job is to stay close. And once you do stay close, how can you in good conscience want to leave? How can you want to leave? Because this wasn't a transactional. Let me tell you, there's so many examples of times I forgot to pray. I'm not talking about my ritual prayers, like at the times that I mean like specific times where it's like, I should have said a little prayer. And it's like they get irritated and they just swing into action and they do it for me anyway. They have that authority to do that. They can do that for you because this is a loving relationship. When you have a pact with a spirit, that you have a transactional relationship, nothing is moving for you, whether you pray for it or not. And a lot of times when you don't keep your agreements, that's when things go haywire. Offerings get refused. A lot of people are at the end of the rope in my situation in this city where no offerings are being accepted. Whatever they do on that altar doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The altar is burnt out. They're not getting any favors. They are back to kitchen magic. And that's sad. I always said it, you cannot buy an ascension. You cannot buy it. People are back, like I had always said before, back to the kitchen magic from whence they came. I have always said it, and I said it from before. People cannot utilize gifts anymore. They're back to kitchen magic. Kitchen magic, I'm not taking anything away from it. But to me, it's the same as jar spills. It's the same as freezer spills. It's like salt and pepper spills. Let's put a little salt and pepper on it. People who eat real pepper, hot pepper, who put 13 peppers in one blender, salt and pepper's not gonna really, they're gonna eat, they don't care. They're not even gonna clean that type of work. They don't need to. So what I am saying is, when you start this relationship, take it very seriously, because they work black and white. When they say they're gonna do it, it's going to get done. It may take 1 year, it may take 5 years, it may take 10 years. I'm being serious. It could take a while. You need to keep your commitments. Let's say it takes 13 years. You need to keep your commitment for 13 years of whatever you said you were gonna do, however you said you were gonna live, or honor them. When you get what when you're getting what you asked for, you need to become ready for it. You need to get ready to receive it, even if your mood about it has changed. Even if you are not in the same place mentally, environmentally, whatever, of when you asked for it, it doesn't matter. You're dealing with spirits, you're not dealing with human beings. Like, there's no collection agency that they could send you to. Like, it's not like not paying a bill. When you do not honor your commitments with spirit, it's like, you know, asking for trouble is how I'm gonna put it. So this is why I encourage spiritual relationships to be out of love and not out of transaction. Give me a second. I have something in the oven I gotta get out. Give me 1 minute. Lord, thank God I ran out to go get that. Anyway, so yeah, as I was saying, you do not want to be or find yourself in any kind of situation where you've made commitments that you cannot keep. They're black and white. They get it done. They get it done. You just can't see how long they're going to get it done. You don't know how they're going to get it done. And you don't know how they're going to get it done. I like to be careful with the things that I ask for. I don't ask for very much, okay? I don't ask for very much, and I mean that. A lot of people would think, well, if you have guides that love you and whatever, why don't you ask for more? Because you don't know how they're gonna do it. And don't put times on things, because if they feel they have to rush something, people think everything is a joke, and it's not. So let me give you an example of why I don't ask for a lot. I ask them to give me what they think is appropriate for me. And I can do that because this is my family. I don't just go asking for just anything. So there was this story of this woman. She asked for her husband to only be able to have sex with her. And the spirit made the husband impotent. He couldn't get up. Not just for other people, for her either. That's what I mean when I say I'm careful what I ask for. I always say, if it is your will, if there is a way that you want to do it on your time, etc. I take it seriously because I'm asking myself. You know, I'm not an envious person at all, and that's the truth. Maybe people might say that, but you know, they have a little bit. I'm not. The reason I'm not is because I always ask myself, do I have the energy for what it is that this person has? Meaning, if somebody has a certain lifestyle, now I'm always thinking that I'm gonna work for it, because like, how else, right? I'm asking myself, with the amount of work I'm doing right now, is it exhausting? Yes. Do I have the energy to put in more work to try to live this lifestyle that this person has? I'm thinking about it and I don't know if it's worth it. Do I want to sacrifice being able to take a vacation, spend time with family, all of that to live this way? No. Could I sacrifice my freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of movement, etc., to be a part of a group? No. I don't care how exclusive it is. I don't care what the protections are. I don't break the law anyway. I don't care. I don't want to be a part of anything where freedom is the sacrifice. So it makes it easy for me to refuse things. I do not like where people reproach me. I do not like where people say, I did this for you and now you owe me. And therefore, it's easy to refuse things. It's easy for me in particular to refuse things, whether it's money, whether it's whatever. First of all, I can go work myself. Secondly, I can ask my people for it to help me figure it out. If that doesn't work, it's not for me. That's why I draw the line. It's not for me. You have to get burned for you to learn when things are not for you. Get your dirty paws off of them. When something is not for you and it's not meant to happen, boy, they will break your rib cage in half when they pull your arm off. I'm not going to take the arm, I'm going to take half your torso. You gotta leave things alone that are not meant to be. Now, in my situation, people made a pact. I think they did it both to cartel bosses and to spirits, that they would get me and my energy. They are without my energy to function. They are back to kitchen magic. Basic magic that anybody can do. This is where they started. They only experienced true spirituality in a sense, in an artificial sense, because of my energy. Now they cannot access it. And everything and everyone attached to them is falling down. So when you make these pacts with these spirits, they are maniacal. They did their part. You have to do your part. You have to do your part. End of story. And that sucks because you got to go through a brick wall of ancestors who are not your typical ancestors that you would think. They're not little old ladies. They're not like, passed over people, humans. So it's impossible. It's mission impossible. And this is a situation that people find themselves in, and sometimes, and that leads me to my next point. My next point is talking again about forgiveness because it's come up. It's a key thing that keeps coming up with myself personally, so I constantly talk about it. So what I will say about forgiveness, first of all, I call it releasing the burden. You'll know when you've forgiven because you feel lighter. You know when you released because you felt lighter. It's kind of like having someone in your life who's causing conflict, and the minute you terminate that relationship, you feel lighter. It's like you can breathe again. It's like sigh of relief. So in order to feel lighter, to feel better, you got to release. We're calling it forgiveness. I don't know, my relationship with that word forgive is like weird because like I usually don't use that word. I usually walk away. So maybe that's what I do. I release. I find that releasing is really when you find out the why of things. Why did it happen? A lot of times when we're hurt, we always ask why. We're confused. How did this happen? I was going through a lot of confusion in my situation. Now, I always find that when I come to the end of a journey is when they give me full explanation. And I realize now that the reason that they do that is to help me release the situation. It's because they need me to just understand it so I can move forward. And every time a cycle is closing, I start seeing, understanding what was going on, and it makes sense and it makes it easier to let go of. So in my situation, knowing the whys of why things have happened and also seeing a bit behind the veil for multiple different people, it's made it easier for me to just make peace with things and just be like, you know what, I understand it's their journey and it is what it is. This is why sometimes I always say, like, try to see things from a higher perspective. If you carry this grudge with the people that have gang stalked you, if you hold it, you will hate humanity. You will. It will block your heart from experiencing love. It will block you from experiencing friendships. It will block you from having deep, meaningful relationships. That is part of the goal of why you are being gang stalked. It is part of it. That is a permanent wound to your heart chakra, which means that you're going to have difficulty connecting. It is okay to take these things to God. It's okay to take these things to your spirit guides and ask them, like, why did this happen? What was I meant to learn? Because sometimes it's not logical. And sometimes you're not even meant to learn anything. It's the other person that's meant to learn something. You're just there to help them figure something out. It's okay to ask God, like, why did this happen? What is this for? You know, first of all, also go to God first for comfort. Don't, in the situation that you're in, probably that's your only source of comfort anyway. Go to God first for comfort. Try to figure, and this is why I say again, relationships built on trust with your spirit team. You can't go to spirits that you have pacts with for or transactional relationships with for comfort. For they're not gonna console you when it's taking long. They don't care. Like, it is what it is. That's what I do. Healing is not right away. It's incremental a lot of the times. The bigger the wound, the longer it takes. You get better at figuring out a process of getting there. You get better at figuring out, well, you know what, I need to continue to pray about it. I need to continue to give it to God. I need to continue to ask for assistance when I need it and all of that. And believe me, like, you go to God and it's miraculous. You have a prayer and it's like you feel so light. You're so comforted. You're guided on ways to comfort yourself, even things to do. So it's like that's always my first thing is I go to God for everything all the time. And it works for me. And so I recommend that as well. What else do I have to say? In your situation, there are a lot of illusions that people paint. They're painting illusions to confuse you. They're painting illusions to make things seem like they're happy, make it seem like they're winning, make it seem like they're not having problems. Spiritual people never want to show what's actually going on with them. You might find an innocent-minded one here or there that'll say, I've been going through this battle, or somebody did this, or somebody did that, or whatever the case is. You'll find people like that. But for the most part, people suffer in silence. People don't say anything. They just smile, and in the back, they're being ripped down. Especially, they're not gonna let you know if they're fighting you or in a competition with you. They're not gonna. They don't want you to know that they're suffering. It's like if your spirit guides are petty, they will show you everything. As soon as it happens, they will tell you. Relationship based spiritual relationships. This is the kind of spirituality that I practice. I don't see the point, the sense of being in a group, in a coven, in any of this for what? I have everything that I need. I think that all these other voices, they drown out everything else that is going on that your spirit's doing. They drown out what your guides are trying to tell you. They make it so that even right now, somebody's trying to do a binding spell on me right now on camera. Even though they know it's the binding spell that busts their ass in the first place. I'm telling you, spirit will tell you everything. It's like people wait for me. John Farrow waits for me to come on camera So he feels like this is the only way to access me when I come on live to do things. And as soon as I click end on the video, it's gonna blow his ass up. It's gonna blow up in his ass the same way. All rank has been stripped if he had it to begin with, and he didn't, because he was a kitchen witch. No passion, no proper connection to spirits. It was like a let me press this button and this thing happens type of relationship. There was no relationship. It's like I'll go pay for things. It wasn't if you have guides, they don't let you do this. They don't let you do stupid things. It's not just about why you pray instead of grabbing graveyard dirt and doing all. If your guides want you to do that, sure, but why do you pray first? Why do you get guidance? Is because they'll tell you no, 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 don't do this, let us handle it, leave it alone. Send your prayers. We decide if we're going to answer it, which one we're going to answer, when we're going to answer, etc., etc. You do not intervene in those situations. Leave it alone. They will let you know, or they'll be like, all right, it's okay, you can do this. This is when you do it, how you do it, etc., etc. But it should be directed. No spirit guide is going to let you, and they said that his guides had warned him in the beginning, but he ignored it. But no normal spirit guide is going to let you do this kind of thing. In my particular situation, people are also using their illusions to hide behind because they don't want to face reality. It is easier to think to make me an enemy because I'm a human being and because how I look, and you can tell yourself, well, she's not as seasoned as me. She doesn't have connections like me. She doesn't this, she doesn't that. It's easier for you to make me the enemy than to realize, to accept, or to come to terms with the fact that you have no alliances in the spirit world, no alliances in the physical world that matter, that you've lost all significant connections, and you're literally here fighting fate, fighting what was written on your own. It is easier to hang on to the idea and the illusion that you're fighting a person and you're not fighting the universe itself, fighting reality. You know, in my situation, people did work that never worked. And so instead of admitting that the work never worked, they just manufactured all the results all the way. I was supposed to be looking tired from working, and when that wasn't happening, I was looking fresh-faced every day. They would just try to like wake me up super early and bother me so I wake up out of my sleep, but it was manufactured, so it was false hope. Everything has been false hope and manufactured results and pretending to be shocked every time something happens, always on alert, waiting for the next shoe to drop and fighting the things that were supposed to happen anyway from happening, being on someone's devices, being everywhere a person is. If you switch from one app to another and one phone to another and one thing to another to fight, to keep manufactured results looking like they are fact. Knowing that you cannot follow somebody everywhere, but trying to just get that one picture that one time to say, yeah, but we're working. And it's not working. And it's like waiting for a slow death. And, you know, that's all. A lot of times it's like that's all these illusions are. These are illusions. And it's one thing, and you know what? There's one thing that I always say. I cannot control when people lie to me, but I will be damned if I lie to myself. You cannot even begin to clean up a situation where you're lying to yourself. You continue, it's like at some point you just gotta accept, like, nothing I did worked. It all backfired. I set myself up the entire time. I did all of this. Nobody binded me up. Nobody sent me death spells. I did all of this and it backfired. How did I get myself to this point? You know, a lot of the times accountability just comes down to just looking at how you self-sabotage. Because a lot of the times it's us who self-sabotage. You know, for me, I've had to clean up a lot of behaviors on my spiritual journey that You don't just master yourself when you open your heart chakra and you can feel sort of what I would call like universal love. You don't just master yourself just because you can feel. It's at the point where now you can actually look at yourself. Now you can be like, I gotta fix this, I gotta clean this up. Sometimes you see, for myself, I'll see past versions of myself in the way people behave, and sometimes it makes it easier for me to just deal with what they're dealing, just deal with their behavior, or not take it too personally. There's some things, and that doesn't mean that it hurts any less, but it's like at least you can understand it. At least you can understand where it comes from, and possibly like what occurred in that situation to bring somebody there. So it's, to me, it's shocking, it's embarrassing, it's mortifying to see someone fall like this. It's, I don't know, like sometimes I'm in shock. I'm like, I used to always ask myself, like, can this person not see what's going on here? Or I have no idea. I don't want to know. It's none of my business. However, it's coming down to a point of being mortifying and embarrassing. I think as these illusions get more and more, they're falling off. It's like someone is seeing how other people see them. It's not, they're seeing themselves. It's not so much that other people didn't know or didn't see. Other people always walked on eggshells around this person. Other people, and they thought it was respect, and it was like, just, that's not how you want to live. People will say they want to be feared, but that's not how you want to live. Being feared means that when someone finally tears you down, nobody's there to help. As a matter of fact, they're cheering behind your back. They're cheering for the person to tear you down. People know that this person was always doing dark work on people. People in Toronto know that. There's no way that they don't know that. Of course they know that. They know the dark work is happening when they're asked to go and walk around, do all this weird stuff, walk around the mall for no reason, and do all this, go to the store and go look at things, and then they see this person that they used to be friends with now turned into a zombie. They're not themselves. People know. People, the city knows. They always knew what this person has been up to. It's just delusion that made the person think, well, I'm a good person, I give people opportunities, I do this. But it's tit for tat, and they call it business. Tit for tat, and they call it business. And when you don't want to accept the tit, then you know what? Either the amount of people, I'm positive this energy doesn't pay people, doesn't return favors, doesn't whatever, because when you behave like this, you think you're a god. You think you lord over people. Then you think, well, if they have an issue, then I'm going to put a death spell on them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. People knew what was occurring. So people knew this was a demonic person. It wasn't hard for anyone to believe what I was saying. People already know that. They know these energies. People know Daisy is a demon. They know that. They know. You cannot come in that girl's energy. Forget the mask. Past the mask. You cannot come in that girl's energy and not feel heavy. Every time you hang up the phone with her, even just looking at the text and putting it down, you feel lighter. People know. It's not that people don't know. It's that now people get to see that people always knew. It's embarrassing. People always knew. And low key, I know that part of the reason why they are going so hard on me, it's not just to save just the organization so that other people don't get motivated and all of that. It's not just about that. It is about people are secretly cheering me on because they don't want to be a part of it. They've never wanted to be a part of it. They hope that I make it so that they can turn around and be like, all right, When is it safe? When is it safe? Because you're in slavery and you know it. You know that you're enslaved. Especially the ones who are gang stalked. The ones who came in voluntarily, they may still, some of them, be of the mindset. But you know, the way that I'm living right now, some people have lived like this forever and they're a part of the group. They're a part of the group, and every single time it's like they have somebody like beating down on them, gang stalking them every minute, all up in their business, watching them, sabotaging them. I went all the sabotage I'm experiencing now, I've always experienced in that city every time I had my business. They would always throw wrenches in my plans. They would always do certain things to me. So it's nothing new. It's just that now I recognize it. This person is jealous and doesn't want to see anybody rise, and they will break their own legs if it means that your leg will break too. This is what I'm taught. Think about a cartoon character like this. Think back and how disgusted you are in your soul, on a soul level, when you see that behavior. Like somebody would kill themselves just to make sure that you don't have something. They could not. It's like one of those things where you see on online where it's like, would you prefer to get 50,000 but your enemy gets 100,000, or would you prefer to get nothing at all? That person would be like, I want nothing at all, because seeing you get that 70 would kill them. Now they have to start coming after you. Now they have to start taking it away from you. Even if they don't get it, they don't care if it's wasted potential. They don't care. They would turn a doctor, a neuroscientist, into a drug mule. They would turn Princess Diana and Jesus, who could turn water into wine and walk on water, into a drug mule. They don't care. And it's such a small payout. It is such a small payout. So in this situation, for me, in my city, I know that people are fighting time, karma, and death. And there is nothing that they can do about it. And so that's why it's easy for me I felt the rage when I was in that accident where they hit me multiple times. I felt the rage. I felt the rage. I felt his rage when he did that. This is a person frustrated. They cannot get me into an accident spiritually. They have to manufacture these results. And the accident was, it was barely, like, it's like paint was chipped. And then they repainted the bumper. That's all it was. So sometimes people might think, and I know people in my city, and this is the other thing, in my city, I am infamous. I am notorious. I may sit here, people think I don't know. I may sit here and I may be to myself, focused on myself. I am well known, probably internationally as well, okay? Because my picture is on a lot of altars. And it's so funny. It's so funny, actually, thinking of that. I remember one time, very early on in this journey, I said, if I had to make a wish, I wouldn't ask for money. I would ask for a temple. I would want to be a goddess. That's what I would ask for. That's how I feel when people have my picture on their altar. I don't care what they're praying about. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like how celebrities, they know it doesn't matter if what you're saying about them is good or bad, that they're still gonna make money. And I'm learning that now. So you can look at how often they're Googled, and you know, certain websites get paid just because, and hopefully it's theirs, just because people are Googling their name. They're getting offers and deals behind the scenes just because they're in a scandal. They make money when you talk about them. It's the intention. And it's the same thing when my picture is on an altar. I feel like, and I know it to be true, that people are praying at my altar when they pray, whether it's praying against me or not. It's just about putting the energy out. It's not about what it will actually happen from it. It's sending all that energy to me. It's a lot of energy to give somebody. And I keep repeating that. It's a lot of life energy, life force to give someone. Because how do you know that what you're praying to is not taking the energy and not taking the prayers and just dumping it into my future? Yeah, people could do anything spiritually, right? So I say all of this to say, look, I know that there are people, a lot of people in this city that are sitting, watching this for different reasons. For some people, it's just a spectacle. For some people, it's funny. For some people, for everybody, it's shocking. For everybody, it's shocking. But truly, what it boils down to is the people that I care about are the people that were stuck. The people that got in through extreme bullying, like what happened to me, the people who never wanted to be there, the people who don't fit in with that crowd, the people who, for the life of them, still do not have it in them to not be that type of person, to not be evil, to not be a disgusting person. Those are the people that I care about. And so I try to temper myself when I come here because I know that I'm talking to those people. And I really want to be some sort of an example of not letting it get so bad that you hate everyone. Everybody here is a victim of something, even if it's just a victim of themselves, their own greed, their own unhealed self, whatever the case is. Everybody here is a victim of something. So, I know how this is going to play out. I think definitely John Ferrer knows how it's going to play out. He knows how it's going to play out because he put the intentions out. So he knows how these intentions are coming back. And it's beyond blood in the water. We are in a Red Sea now. We are in a Red Sea. It is horrible. It is bad. And as I continue to learn the details, as my ancestors continue to explain to me the difference of different work that was done and different things that have backfired or just not been accepted or whatever the case is, how things are working, I'm realizing why the anxiety is so bad. It's literally not just because the cartel is after someone. It's like energy work. Energy work is coming back. Multiple, like, I'm telling you, with the amount of work that was done on me and is still being done on me, if I'm just including the energy work that started from January till March only, just that much alone is a lot. We're talking about enough energy to take out a village and more, more than a village, like a little town, like a lot, a lot of spell work, round the clock, and not one thing has hit. This is not just bad news. This is like we created our own destruction and we know how hard we were going. And as more and more things come out, like when you understand what a death spell is, when you understand what a sacrifice is, when you understand what a binding spell is, when you understand what all of this stuff is, you understand that one of these alone is very bad news. But to have done so much, like I want to say, I don't know for the death spells, but the amount of binding work that I felt, it's like daily, daily. There's, you do the work and you know it's not going to work. It's not just like plugging it into the socket and it doesn't light up and it's like, oh shucks. You put the energy out there and the energy didn't move, but it's been cultivated. So what happens with it? And like they know that, or at least they should. They try to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. They know that I know what I'm talking about from day one. That's why I've been public enemy number one, because I've literally lifted the lid off of a lot of things that have happened. That's their real issue with me, is that I have really spoken up about things that nobody was supposed to know except I guess maybe the higher ups. That I've really told everybody what they are a part of, not just spiritually, but what these people do. how you're trapped, how they create illusions, how they lie. There, people have no choice but to look at the notes, no choice but to just sit down and like trace it back like from the beginning. So is this person really my friend? So was this all orchestrated? So did I just lose my house for no reason? No, none of it was an accident. You were attacked to make you a drug mule, to make you okay with this lifestyle. They, I don't even want to call it tricking. It's way more than that. It's way more than that. And they sacrificed you on top of it. They sacrificed you to something for money. So, you know, it's very tough information to digest when you thought you were just doing something for money. You thought this was just a job. You thought you were just making a few extra dollars. And then now you find out like you're a part of some very weird, dark stuff. And not just being a part of it is one thing, but not being able to leave. When you finally say that you want to leave, you can't leave. And that is also an illusion. You can leave. You can very much leave. But you need spiritual help to leave. You need spiritual help, number one. And not just you need spiritual help, but you need to be determined to leave. Because you got to wait. When you go to your ancestors, when you finally break that barrier and you pull to them. And let me explain another thing about that. In the beginning, it'll feel like there's a tug of war for you. Even though you've chosen a side and you know that you want to be with, God, your ancestors, your spirit team, whatever. You will feel them try to block that relationship. They will constantly try to pray it down, and they will try to cause you to have behaviors that will break it. That's where the sex magic comes in. That's where the sending dark entities towards you, possessing you and all that. That's where that comes in, because you are trying to pray and connect, and you're going to start thinking things, and it's going to be easier to control and manipulate you, to send you energy. If they look at you, they study you. Trust me, they study you and they find your weaknesses. You're very lustful, you're very horny, naturally. Perfect. Sex demon. You have a temper. Perfect. Send you rage. You are blah, blah, blah. Send you this. It's like they diagnose it. Then they get the first one in and they send a couple more. So all of this stuff, it blocks you from the light. It blocks you from the light. If you are an envious person, they are going to do something. So they're gonna almost like manipulate and control you through this entity. So there's a lot of manipulation that happens both in your physical world, like in reality, and spiritually. And they know that. They know how to. I've seen people struggle with these entities in my face where I'm talking to two different people. There was a realtor who was like that. One minute she was normal and she was agreeable and she was scared and she was shaken and she's like, yeah, I know what you're saying. And then the next minute, demonic, dark, dark, cannot break through to her, can't explain anything to her, cannot connect to her. So it's like, this is what it's like having an entity. Like you, it's like the movie Get Out. Your consciousness is like in the background fighting, and it's in the foreground doing whatever it wants. And it's like you are paying the consequences of it. You're paying the consequences of this energy in your vessel. It is very important when once you tap in spiritually, you need to stay safe. I talk about that. You need to be with a spiritual family. You do not want to have gifts and not have a spiritual family, not have any protection, not have any guidance, not have anything to say, hey, you're going the wrong way, any intuition that makes you do things. None of the above. Like, you got to do better. You have to do better. It sucks seeing the kind of things that I've seen and seeing the kind of people that have fallen and decisions people have made. But it is what it is. People make their decisions, and it is what it is. And I feel like, what? Spiritually, it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen. Maybe people were just needed for up until a certain bit, and then after that, it was like they've served their purpose. That's how it is gonna be in your journey being gang stalked. People are going to be there for legs of the journey and not forever. You need to really be cautious about knowing. It's like any time in life, you're gonna know when it's time to say goodbye. Relationships are like that. You're gonna need to know when it's time to say goodbye. And a lot of times people ignore what the signs of when it's time to just walk away from situations. And a lot of times it's like you let it go past its expiration and then you suffer for that. That's one thing. I'm not good at everything, but that's one thing I'm really good at knowing. When it's time to go, I make peace with it. Adios, you know. Doesn't mean that I don't care, doesn't mean that it didn't bother me, doesn't mean any of the above, but it's like I don't have to fight it. Well, should I not? It's like just, you know, let it go and let it be what it is, you know. And I don't need to look back on what's occurring and what's not occurring and how it's occurring and all of that. Anyway, that's really what I wanted to talk about. That's what's on my heart. The forgiveness thing is going to come up a lot because you really need to release a lot. I've been releasing my entire way through this journey. I've spent the entire journey letting things go, releasing things. And I think that's probably a lifelong skill that I'm going to have to learn is simply to release things. Otherwise, they will be used against you. People want you to hate people. People want you to have bad relationships. People will take advantage of arguments you have, disagreements you have, weird stuff that occurs between you and people. They'll take advantage of it and try to use it to like really hurt you and make you feel what they feel inside, that nobody loves them, that they're unlovable and whatever. That's one of the biggest things that they've been trying to do with me, is make me feel like I'm unlovable. Like, how are you gonna make me feel like that? Every time I go outside I get love, right? So anyway, thank you. Take this into consideration. Keep up your spiritual practices and your spiritual hygiene and have yourself an amazing day today. Bye bye.